My name is Reuben Cannon. My current position, or I guess I would describe my current way I would describe myself as a veteran television, film, entertainment expert. Some of the highlights in my career are much like the highlights of my life. Highlights of my life having to do with the birth of my children, and and I think of and the legacy that I'm most proud of in my career are the young people whose career I was able to give a boost to. I wouldn't say I gave birth to, but they already had the dream. But I was able to advance their dream, or just to give them confirmation that they were on the right path. And in some cases, open doors for them and to support them in their journey. That's what I'm most proud of. I mean, we currently have have a president and at the Disney organization, have another vice president over at Fox. I mean, throughout the industry is because at one point, because I was the first Black casting director in the industry, I made a point to make sure I wouldn't be the last. Well, there maybe so therefore I started an intern program in my office, and those interns, if you can imagine, like they were like little acorns. Well, now they're oaks. They're big oaks. They're big redwoods. And and I'm so couldn't be more proud of them than I would be of my own children if they had pursued a career in entertainment. So those are the highlights. The highlights is watching the interns grow and build their own businesses, and and just being involved with so many talented, creative people. I was there at the launch of the Oprah Winfrey show because not that I was producing that show, I was casting The Color Purple, so that formed a friendship with Oprah. The fact that I was somewhat responsible for casting her in Color Purple. Within that friendship became also a business partnership where I produced the Women of Brewster Place with her. And even today, as I speak, we currently have two projects, one with OWN and one with her film division of her company. Once again, my specialty, when I say expert, my specialty was finding talent and nurturing talent. And sometimes those relationships turned into business. Other times they just went on, became rich and famous. And sometimes they became rich and famous, and they became a trivial question. When I did the A Team, so I'm thinking of Mr. T, and the actors from that show. So the fact that I've been at this for so long is, the highlights, are so varied. What happens when you're busy working at what you love to do, you don't think of it as making history. You don't think of it as creating a legacy. You think of, I'm just trying to be the best professional or be the best at what I do. So based on a strong work ethic, which was shaped and formed there during my years in Chicago, growing up in Chicago, um, and values that were passed on by my parents and grandparents, and just basic common street sense. I mean, I was able to thrive in Hollywood because I wasn't here. I was here with one purpose, that was to acquire as much knowledge as I could about the industry during my early years, and to become not good, but the best at it. So I began my career in 1971 after buying a one-way ticket from Chicago to LA. I had one friend here I knew, uh, but I knew, based on my work ethic, that if I got a job at any studio, I would find my way. And fortunately, I was able to find. I was hired at Universal Studios to work in the mailroom, and the mailroom was referred to as the executive training program. Even though you're delivering mail, they would they were able to evaluate your potential to be an executive based on. I believe that, by the way. I think excellence shows up no matter what you're doing. Um, so I began my career in 1971 at Universal Studios. Wow, what's the date? 20. I believe I traveled. I flew to Los Angeles November 15th of 1971 and began working Universal Studios New Year's Eve of that year. And so it's been nonstop ever since. I don't think I've had a day in which in which I wasn't working since '71. Um, I'm very fortunate, just to have worked with so many talented people. Um, I started working with Tyler Perry in 2005. What was I thought would be one film, which was Diary of a Mad Black Woman, was the beginning of a 10 film um, production partnership for Reuben Productions and Tyler Perry Studios and Lionsgate. That was the highlight. I think that was another highlight where I was able to just see a talented young man offer my experience and expertise, staff the company, and just watch him grow. So in the 10 years I was there, um, we produced, no, in the 7 years I was there, we produced 10 movies, and at least I produced with him 10 movies and 265 episodes of television. But more importantly, it was just the environment. Working with a black-owned company, it just really spoiled me because I think I said we produced. I produced. Was executive producer on House of Pain, and on House of Pain, we produced 275 episodes and never received one note from the network because we basically were. They trusted Tyler, knew what he was doing. They trusted the people that were there making the product, and so that's how we were able to do 3 or 4 shows a week. Tyler has since amped up that schedule, and they now do 3 or 4 shows a day. Yeah. So, but that's just the innovator and the pioneer that he is. So the highlights have been, as I said, the highlights throughout my career have been watching interns succeed and thrive and receive the recognition that they deserve. Um, the word discovery is is misused. I don't think I've ever discovered anyone. I was fortunate enough to be connected with people who were in the early stages of their career, whether it's Oprah or Tyler, and they had respect for my experience. I had respect and admiration for their vision and their goals, and therefore I was able to, create wonderful working relationships with them and many others. The mentees, what I realized is that while they may appreciate what I've done with them and for them, I'm not sure they understand. And I said this to them when they gave me a birthday party several years ago, how much that they taught me. Um, the the confidence and the care and the courage that they have, and the confidence and the faith and trust that they put in me to. So that's for instance, give me an example of Tyler. Um, Tyler didn't have any experience in working in Hollywood, and I did. And some of the Hollywood protocols and Hollywood systems is what I used in Hollywood. For instance, I produced a television series called Amen with Sherman Hemsley and um, Anna Marie Horsford and Clifton Davis. In fact, the character in that show was called Reverend Reuben. Um, and the normal schedule for producing a half-hour sitcom is a week per episode, 1 episode per week. You read on Monday, the networks will give their notes, the studio will give their notes, and the actors will go back and perform or read it again with the new notes, with the changes. So by the time you implement the changes and have another rehearsal, you're into Wednesday, and then you would tape on Friday. Well, Tyler had never seen that model. So, but he knew the model he knew was based on theater. When he was on the road doing his plays, he was phenomenally successful. They did 8 shows a week. So if what the difference between a half-hour sitcom and a 3-act play or 2-act play, very similar actors. So if we can do 8 shows a week in the theater, granted it's the same play, why can't we do 3 or 4 episodes, or at least one a day, or two, or one every other day, of a half-hour sitcom? I couldn't answer, so I don't know. No one's ever tried it. So we tried it and it worked. So that was a lesson that I learned, that what was maybe Hollywood had used the same model since Lucille Ball days about pre-camera half-hour sitcoms. There is another way to do this, and we had the luxury and the time, because Tyler was willing to make a bet on himself. So the first 10 episodes of House of Pain, Tyler paid for. So we, once again, it was an experiment, and rather than go out and pitch it and try to sell the idea, let's just do it. And we did it, and after 10 episodes, we're shopped. Even that was a lesson for me. Why don't we, Tyler said, why don't I just, instead of negotiating, give them to various stations where my plays, he had been touring the country, and wherever he played, his plays were performed, they did remarkably well in the locations of Chicago and Atlanta. So what if we were to broadcast these shows in those markets? And when they were broadcast in those markets, the ratings were better than anything that was currently on the air. So that was enough to make the network pay attention and order 100 episodes. So the learning that and lessons that I learned by it definitely expanded my imagination. It expanded my mind on what's possible. And we see that now as we see Tyler with the largest studio in the country. So that's the young people or innovators teaching the old so-called old master something. I'm 75 years old, and I've been working in the industry for 50 plus years, and still is actively working. Thank God. Yeah, that to see so many talented young people, directors, writers. I watched this weekend. I watched the program, and I called one of my colleagues. Said, "This is a masterclass of filmmaking." It was the movie "The Harder They Fall." Everything about it, was just brilliant. Every aspect, the casting, the writing, the actors, and it was Black people. So, I can appreciate that more than most because I've been around. And I had lunch about a month ago with three um, presidents of various divisions of networks. They were all Black. And I said to them, I said, you probably, you're busy making history, but I've had the luxury of having a seat, over the past 50 years. So where I would go in a room, I'd be the only one. The fact that you're now in that room, and even if you're only one, which you're probably not, but at least you're in charge. That is a major milestone, and I'm just glad I've lived long enough to see it. So I'm very encouraged and very excited about the future of entertainment, especially what it means to people of color.